Are you freaking kidding me? What's up, guys? I'm Mason the Brook Henderson here, and this is Criminal Minds, Season 12, Episode 22, Red Light. Okay, so, let's talk about this episode. First of all, I'm going to talk about this episode because, well, frankly, there's really two parts to it. The first part is most of the episode, which is, of course, dealing with Kat, the assassin woman, and then, of course, Lindsay, her accomplice, who's got Spence's mother. That's pretty much the story of this episode. And then at the end, they throw in a little cliffhanger just to try to draw in people who stopped watching this season because at times it got pretty boring. And so it's just like, ooh, guys, look, cliffhanger to end on, so you come back for season 13. Anyway, so Spencer starts off with, of course, him seeing Kat, talking to her, and I guess the people behind Criminal Minds watched Legion, I assume, because I guess they saw Aubrey Plaza's performance in that and saw what that show was about and just thought, you know what, we're going to do that too, because that's pretty much what it felt like. It felt like Aubrey Plaza once again playing Lenny and just doing mind stuff inside of Spencer's mind. They're in a prison cell, but then all of a sudden they're in a nice room and she's all like dressed up fancy. I'm just like, this feels so much like Legion. It feels almost like you're copying it, and I don't know how I feel about that, because while I love Legion, I don't think that gives you the right to copy it. But anyway, but she's messing with Spence's mind, and of course he's playing her game, but still not really playing it, trying to figure out how to beat her at the same time. And so, he's going through all of that. He's trying to figure out exactly what's going on. At one point, we find out that apparently she's pregnant, and she says it's with Spencer's baby. So, holy shit, that was completely shocking. She brings up Maeve, which, honestly, it's been forever since we've even talked about her. I mean, what was that, season 9? That's 3, wait, was it season 9? I don't remember. I'm pretty sure it was 8 or 9. It was whenever the older woman was on the team. I can't remember her name now. Alex. So, yeah, I'm not really sure when that happened, but it's been quite a while, and it's honestly one of the most heartbreaking episodes in the world. If you haven't seen it, I honestly suggest you go check it out. So just go buy season 8 and 9 and just try to watch through it and remember which episode it is. Because it's something that, Spence has already been through a whole ton of shit, and then this episode happens with Maeve and everything that happened with her. So, yeah, it's extremely heartbreaking. Well, of course, Kat brings up her and says, I used her to convince you, to have sex with me. Although she never actually says it because she wants to be all playful about it. Like, did we actually... Okay. Something, I guess they think that not saying have sex makes it even dirtier somehow. But she says that that's how she got Spencer to impregnate her. And so, of course, big, huge bombshell, but there is a question of, is it actually Spencer's? They realize that somebody is actually helping her out, and they're not really sure who, because somehow she has knowledge to, like Morgan and how he's off the team and his son, but Spencer said his son's name, and it was the wrong name, but she didn't react. So obviously she didn't actually know the name of the son. So they realize, oh, somehow she got her hands on his file. And so they're trying to figure out who was involved. And so finally they come to Lionel Wilkins, the guy who was in charge of the prison. And I'm glad they brought that up. I'm glad that he was actually involved, because I don't know if I talked about this in the episodes where he was in prison, but it was very, very frustrating whenever he was just, like, completely on Spencer's case the entire time he was in prison. Like, every single time something bad happened, it was like he, like, honed in on Spencer. Like, no matter what it was, he was like, it was your fault, you're a terrible person, you're an FBI agent, so you're a terrible person. And for some reason, just completely singling out Spencer. And even whenever Prentice came to talk to him, or was it JJ? One of them came to talk to him about Spencer, and he was just being very combative against it. And I'm just like, dude, what is this guy's problem? What does he have against Spencer? Well, now we know he was actually helping Kat and Lindsay the entire time. And it turns out, at the end of it, we find out that he's the one that impregnated Kat. So there's probably a little something going on between them, but I don't know. I just like the fact that they gave him a purpose to the story, not just being a jerky ass security guard, because that would have been really annoying. But then we see Lindsay's out there still doing Kat's dirty work. Prentice puts out an Amber Alert, which I have to wonder if this is going to come back in any way or form because she kind of broke the law here. But she puts out an Amber Alert for Lindsay saying she's an abductor, even though it's not a child she abducted, because that's what people pay attention to. So, very interesting that she decided to sort of twist the law a little bit. But this one guy's at a gas station, he's filling up his truck, and then he gets the Amber Alert after he's tried to pick up Lindsay, and sees Lindsay as the Amber Alert. So then he calls, but she gets the Amber Alert as well, and so she's like, oh crap, recognize me. So she shoots him, kills him, and then about that time, Kat calls her to give proof of life to Spence, and so of course, at that point, she shoots the ground where she's been spraying all the gasoline, and then the car that she had Spencer's mom blows up. And so it's kind of like, oh no, guys, she might be dead, but I figured she wasn't because this story has to have some sort of happy ending, and I figured Spencer getting his mom back was going to be that happy ending. So, of course, she takes the guy's truck and puts Spencer's mom in the back. So she shows up at, I guess, the meeting point that they were supposed to be with Lionel. And so he gets Spencer's mom out of the truck, sets her down, and then she shoots him. I guess she didn't like him this entire time, or maybe she just saw him as a pawn, and since he served his purpose, she killed him. I don't know the reason. But I'm assuming she didn't really like him that much, because when Spencer is talking to Kat and trying to admit whatever she wanted him to admit, which ultimately was she wanted Spencer the entire time, he mentions the fact that Lionel's the one that impregnated her. And so Prentice has that playing on a phone for Lindsay to see while she's holding the detonator for the bombs that she set up in the house with everybody in it. And so at that point, we see that she feels betrayed because she loved Kat, and the fact that she had a baby with Lionel and did all of this just to be with Spencer, it really hurts her. So whenever Kat says, kill the bitch, she's like, you bitch, and says no. So sets the detonator down. She gets arrested. Kat, of course, doesn't get what she wanted. Spencer just pretty much says, we'll never be together. And I love the final scene with them where she's like, you wanted to hurt those men. Once you cross that line, you'll never come back. Spencer goes over, yanks his watch off her wrist, and says, watch me. And stands up and walks out. I'm like, yes! Yes, yes, yes! Go Spencer! And I talked about this. I was really, really concerned at the end of all of this season. It felt like they might be building up to he's leaving the team or something. Like everything that happened, I was worried something bad might happen with his mom. Maybe he feels like he needs to go take care of her and he's leaving the team because of that. I was so worried because, like I said, they've already taken Hotch away. They took Morgan away. They put in a lifeless robot to replace them. And it just hasn't been the same without them. If you take Spencer away, that's just taking away the heart of the team. He has been through so much. He's the one that your heart just breaks for, but it feels so good to see him overcome because you know how smart he is. You know that he has the capability to overcome any obstacle. And so seeing this scene was just like, yes. Yes, 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 yes. Perfect ending to the perfect story. However, they decided we're not done yet. So ultimately he gets back with JJ to the office, and there's his mom waiting. So they have a touching reunion, which is really nice. And then Prentice goes inside after she gets some sort of message, asks a random agent, where is he? And he's like, he's in the office where you told me to put him. And of course, it's Derek Morgan, because like I said last week, they did show in the previews that Morgan was going to be in this episode, in this finale. So she goes in and starts talking to him, and all I can think is, please tell me he's coming back. 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 He's not coming back. Apparently, I don't know, they just wanted to give us a cameo of him because we didn't get to see him at all this season, and it just felt like a cock tease, like, hey, remember this guy who's so much better than Stephen Walker on the team? He's not actually coming back. So, yeah, he shows up for just a few minutes. apparently he got a message from Garcia that wasn't actually from her, because it was a text message, but it had nothing of the Garcia feel, how she normally talks to him, which you really think Scratch would probably guess. And I'm thinking he probably did guess, because as we see, he does have some sort of trap set up for the team. Um, but that's why he comes back, because he wants to say, hey, I think I found where Mr. Scratch is. So the team, of course, heads out, but he doesn't, and he does tell Garcia why he's not coming back, about his son and how he promised he'd be there every night for him. And, of course, he also says that he's going to stick around for just a little bit longer so he can be there for Spence. I hope maybe we get a little bit more of him at the beginning of next season, him talking to Spence and just, finally get a little bit. Because, honestly, why would you have a Morgan cameo if you're not going to have him talking to Spence? Because they're like brothers, man. You got to have them talking to each other. Please let him stick around for just that scene, and I'll be happy. Obviously, not having him on the show sucks, but it would at least appease me for most of next season. But we do see the team, like I said, they head out there. There is a trap. I don't know how the hell he set all this up, but they start driving towards the area, and of course they've got all these teams set up, ready to take on the location. As they're driving down the road, all of a sudden spikes come out onto the road, and so busts up their tires. Out of nowhere, here comes this huge semi, bursts through two of the cars, and then goes straight for the car that Prentice and I can't remember who the other person in the car was who was driving, but she was in the passenger seat, and I'm like, no. Smacks into the side of the truck and just goes, and then cut to black credits, and I'm just like, are you kidding me? Freaking cliffhanger, man. So, yeah, that's how this season ends. I personally, I don't know what to expect. I don't know if anybody's actually dead. I don't know if maybe this is going to somehow hurt Prentice. Maybe she'll end up in a wheelchair all next season. That might be interesting. I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what they're going to do with this. They can't kill off Prentice because she's supposed to be the leader of the team. She just became the leader of the team. And they're not going to bring Hotch back because they had that little fight with Thomas Gibson. So obviously he's not coming back. So there's no way they could kill off Prentice, because then there would be no leader of the team anymore. Unless they're going to make Rossi the leader. But why would you change leaders after you just changed leaders this season? That wouldn't make any sense. So I don't know what they're planning to do with this. I don't know why they decided to leave it off on a cliffhanger and not just, I don't know, give us something a little bit more meaningful. Like, I don't know, maybe Morgan goes with them or something. I hate cliffhangers. I hate cliffhangers that feel like they're just there to say, ooh, guys, come back next season to find out what happened. That's really what this feels like. And while I do want to find out what happens with Mr. Scratch, I hate the fact that they had to be like, oh guys, somebody might be dead, because it just feels forced and contrived to force people to come back to, ooh, guys, find out if they all survived, if they're all okay. So, yeah, I don't mind it, but I still don't really like it. I still have problems with it. And of course, not having Morgan sucks too. But that's about it for this episode. So, final thoughts on the season as a whole. Better than last season, but still not great. It's just, ever since season 10, season 10 was really, really bad. That was the season with Jennifer Love Hewitt in it. It was not great at all. It was really boring for most of it, and not because of Jennifer Love Hewitt in particular. That's just the one thing that stood out about that season, was she was in it. But yeah, like, a lot of really boring episodes were in that season. Cut to season 11, more interesting stuff. The assassins were interesting, even if it wasn't enough of the assassins. But then, of course, the Morgan stuff happened late on, which kind of made it a bit more exciting. And then we see the prison break at the end. Mr. Scratch gets out. And so that's kind of what kicks off our season, is we see they're trying to find him. They're trying to locate him, see where he is. Obviously, losing Thomas Gibson near the beginning of the season really does suck, because it just didn't feel this. It doesn't feel the same without Hotch anymore. Especially because Mr. Scratch's story mainly revolved around Hotch. It really sucks not to have him anymore, because that storyline feels like it's just not the same. It doesn't feel like it has the same weight because of what happened with Mr. Scratch and Hotch in that one episode in season 10. But after Thomas Gibson left and obviously Prentice came back, it was fairly it was okay. It wasn't anything special, but the cases were fairly good. Some of them were boring, some of them were interesting, but for the most part, it was average Criminal Minds, which it's about what I can ask for in season 12. But then the Spencer stuff kicked off, and that was where things really did get exciting. After the second half of the season started, I really got into it. I wanted to find out what was going on with Spencer. How is it all going to end? However, that being said, like I said, most of those reviews, they focused way too much on the case in that episode than they did the Spencer stuff. That was what we wanted to see. We wanted to see a ton of Spencer surviving in prison. What's he going to do? How far are his morals going to go to just survive? That's what I wanted to see more of, and we got too much of, oh, this case. Oh, guys, look at Spencer, look at Spencer. This case. More of this case. Look at Spencer, look at Spencer. This case. It felt like it was way too much focused on the episodal cases rather than, guys, how are we going to help Spencer? What's going on with Spencer? What's he doing in there? And it did take away a lot of it. It took away a lot of the emotion. Obviously, it ended very well with bringing back Aubrey Plaza's character, bringing back the assassin, bringing back Lindsay's character. Bringing up Maeve even is something that they don't really do that often. When's the last time we really talked about Maeve? When's the last time we talked about Spencer and his drug problems? When's the last time, we really brought up a lot of Spencer's problems? He has a lot of stuff going on. So I really enjoyed that part of it. But just one thing that I was thinking about near the end of it, I'm like, whatever happened with Calvin Shaw? Do we actually confirm that he's being moved to another facility? Did he die? It just felt like you could have spent more time focusing on that with Spencer and Calvin rather than focusing on the mother who suspected her son of killing, and then it turned out her son did kill. Oh, big shock. So, yeah, while this season was better, there's still a lot of problems that need fixed. Either they need to start switching to a storyline throughout the entire season, just even if you do have episodes where you're just chasing random bad guys, still have some sort of story going on that we can get invested in. Give us something that we can tune in and be like, I want to find out more. The last thing that they need to do to kick off season 13 is catch Mr. Scratch. That is the worst thing possible. Next season there needs to be focused on him because one of the things that I think was really brilliant about the second half of the season was it looked like it was Mr. Scratch, but it turned out to be Cat. That's brilliant because it turns out this whole time wasn't actually Mr. Scratch, which means next season you could give us Mr. Scratch and that'll be okay. Because this season wasn't really about him. It turned out to be more about Spencer and Cat, which I think that leaves open a lot of room in season 13 to say, this season's going to be about Mr. Scratch. This season's going to be about catching him, going through all of his traps, going through the different things, that one episode where he kidnapped Tara's brother and was threatening to kill him. That episode was really good. Give us some of that scattered throughout season 13. Give us a couple episodes where he targets specific members. Maybe give an episode where Stephen Walker can emote more than just the same old monotone robotic voice that he has every episode. Maybe Mr. Scratch targets him somehow. I don't know. Just give us something. Give us something that we can connect with. Give us something that we can get invested in. Don't just give us, okay, first episode, Mr. Scratch stuff. Ooh, this is intense. Ooh, what's going to happen? Next episode, okay, so this random guy is out here cutting out the hearts of his victims. What's going to happen? Tune in this week to find out what's going to happen next. So that's all I can hope for in season 13. But as far as the season 12 is concerned, it did go out on a high note, and I'm thankful for that. I'm glad that they managed to at least give us one kick-ass ending for a season that overall could have used a little bit more work. But that's about it for my thoughts. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on this episode and the season as a whole? What do you think is coming in season 13? What do you think Mr. Scratch has planned for the team? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Criminal Minds reviews, and I'll see you at the next one. Peace out.